I'm Victoria Devine, Millennial Money expert and the host of the She's on the Money podcast, and this is Talking Financial Wellbeing with Australian Unity. Today, I'm talking to Esther Kerr, who is the CEO of Wealth and Capital Markets at Australian Unity. Esther, I'm so excited to talk to you today about financial wellbeing. Can you tell me a little bit more about what, to you, financial wellbeing is and why it's so important?
It's the misunderstood part of wellbeing. I think we all intuitively understand physical health or friendships and relationships or a good home contributes to our well-being. But when you talk finances, people switch off. If you don't have at least a modest amount of financial security, financial confidence, economic empowerment in your life, you don't have overall well-being. So it's not everything towards well-being, but it's a really important part of it that I think people are a bit scared to engage with.
Yeah, I feel like we always bury our heads in the sand when it comes to money because it's overwhelming, or our money story might mean that we feel like money is bad to talk about or not something that we should be empowered by. But from my perspective as an ex-financial advisor, money is something that really guides all of the other areas of wellness of your life. You can't be well in any other aspect of life if you don't have the underlying basics of finances sorted. So what can we do to help that?
That's right. And it's not about just being uber wealthy. Beyond a certain level of absolute wealth really makes no difference to someone's overall well-being. But from nothing to something, from being worried about how you're going to provide for your children, from being worried about where you're going to live when you retire, from not having a sort of safety net, a financial safety net under your day-to-day life, you can't be well. So what we need to do is we need to get rid of the bells and whistles, but we need to find a way to get a modicum of financial advice, the basics, to people that don't even know to ask for it. How are we getting that information to people and at the right time in their lives? I don't think everybody needs to think about their finances every day, but there are points, there are inflection points and crossroads that we come to where if we just have someone we can go to and ask, or a reference point, the outcomes for overall well-being are transformed.
I love that, and I think it's so important to kind of preface it like that. I call them in my community hygiene factors. I just call them hygiene factors because I genuinely think that everybody as a base level needs to know what an emergency fund is, what to do with superannuation, what to do when it comes to investing and why we should be investing, especially if we are women because we are already behind. So I just think it's so special that you and Australian Unity are putting that first and actually going, how do we connect with the community at the right stage in their life to have an impact? Because let's be honest, no one wants to talk about finance every single day. There's usually a trigger point.
Yeah, that's right.
What types of trigger points do you see coming up where people kind of get knocked into gear to think about money?
Well, I'm going through a separation. I've got 3 school-age children. I'm having to rethink. So I thought I had a good plan, but now's the right time where I'm thinking I need to check in on my will. I need to think about school fees. I'll be responsible for my mortgage by myself now. So net divorce is a time, comes to mind. But if you start off with not much, what are your upfront investment strategies? What are your savings? So just a conversation early when we're all just starting out in our career about how much do you live in your 20s versus stock away for the future, and how do you think about that? So there are points, I think, marriage, separation, the employment job thing I've been thinking about a lot more, that point when your children are working out about investing in their education, when you try and buy property. I love what you're doing because, as you have mentioned, advice is so important. I believe it's so important, but it goes to the people that almost don't need it.
100%.
So how do we create communities who can learn from each other, who can be prompted by each other, who can demystify things